Hi, so what kind of year has 2019 been for electric car adoption? Has it been great, with lots of new cars coming out and loads more people getting in cars? Or has it been a bit of a disappointment, or pretty rubbish actually, for a number of reasons that I'll go into in this video, from my opinion? And will 2020 be any better for electric cars? Let's talk about it in this video. So I'm going to do a bit of a kind of rambling and talking video here. The sun is out for the first time in a long time. Here in Denmark, here in Aarhus, Denmark, where I've moved from the UK back in the middle of 2019. And you may have wondered if you've been watching the channel for a while. Sorry, I disappeared for a few weeks. Firstly, I needed a bit of a break, a bit of a rest. Doing weekly videos is quite tiring with a family and with a full-time job. But also I got 3 bouts of kind of back-to-back sort of Nordic cold or flu, which really laid me out. And I've been doing kind of weeks and weeks of furniture assembly to get our rented family home here up to speed. 2019 was quite a big year of transformation and change for me. Moved from the UK to Denmark in the middle of the year, back in June, then sold our house, our UK house, in October. And so yeah, a bit of a strange time. It's the kind of thing you just sort of get through it at the time, but afterwards reflect on, that was quite heavy, you know, quite a lot to do. Back in the middle of 2019, in June, I sold what I would call a kind of unicorn EV. I had one of the best EVs, I think, in its kind of price range and kind of range category, the Hyundai Ioniq Electric, which I've made most of the videos on this channel about. So I had to sell that back in June because of moving here to Denmark. Wasn't really a sensible thing to kind of, you know, take a right-hand drive car here. So anyway, I sold the car. Been trying all sorts of different things in the meantime. Hourly rentals of EVs. Tried a kind of like, you know, car share sort of Turo style EV thing, didn't work out. And then I've ended up on an electrically assisted bicycle here. 2, actually, in fact, which if you're interested, let me know. I can do reviews of those on this channel from a kind of electric car owner's point of view. That's the only reason I've got kind of interested in bicycles, is because of the electric assistance and the similarity to kind of electric cars and general kind of electrification of transport. But yeah, back to the main theme then of, you know, what 2019 was like for electric cars, why I think it wasn't so good, and wondering what the prospects are like in 2020. So I'll cut some footage in here and some other footage of things I've been doing as I wander around this lovely forest today in the kind of rare winter Danish sun. And yeah, I'll talk about things. So just for context then, back in the sort of end of 2018, start of 2019, I still wasn't sure what was going to go on, work-wise and career-wise and so on. So I was still back in the UK, happily driving my Ioniq Electric, and I made a video driving around West Yorkshire, wondering what 2019 was going to be like for EVs. And it seemed to be at the start of this year that it was going to be, you know, lots of new models coming out, possibly, not many of which I was excited about, but lots of new things coming out, and that it was generally kind of going to be fairly upbeat for EVs. And I think if you kind of follow the philosophy of channels like, you know, Fully Charged and some other YouTube channels, particularly a lot of the Tesla ones, you know, you'd think, oh yeah, you know, things are great, things are getting better every day, every week, every month for electric cars and electric car adoption. But there's been a few kind of downsides to that this year that I think, you know, it's time for a bit of a reality check really, which is kind of what this video is about. Firstly, most of the electric car adoption benefits have been offset by people buying more and more SUVs, mainly in the USA, mainly in China. So that's a real reality check of what's actually going on in the wider world of, you know, cars and vehicles. It's still a huge glut of petrol and diesel vehicles, which this year have been proved pretty, you know, conclusively kill people and kill the planet. The pollution from burning fossil fuels in petrol or diesel engines produces matter that gets into every cell in the body, causes all manner of diseases, and of course is affecting the whole climate of our planet. If you look at the sales figures for, you know, month by month or for the year, it's clear that the kind of game changer, or the thing that's really moved the needle, is the Tesla Model 3. Its sales just, you know, they pass everything else. So the car I used to own, the kind of unicorn EV, the Ioniq Electric, you know, that you can barely get hold of, they don't make many of them, but fabulous car. Down in the noise, dismal number of sales of that particular car. Same for the Kona Electric, same for the e-Niro, and most of the other kind of models of full battery electric cars. The problem is most people cannot afford the Tesla Model 3, and there's a kind of price uplift generally on everything, it seems, in Denmark. With other cars, not the Tesla, there's also this problem here which I've highlighted in previous videos, which has made me a bit glum about EVs in 2019, that they price gouge on options here in Denmark, it seems, for all of the manufacturers of EVs. All the things I would expect to be standard on an EV in the UK are kind of uplift large price options here. in Denmark, which I just think is a rip-off. I don't see any reason for this kind of region-by-region differentiation in spec, particularly when it involves price. I think with this, there's two things of the data about, SUV uptake and also the pollution and just how kind of ubiquitous that is from petrol and diesel cars. I think and also actually this weird thing with customer service being bizarre here in Denmark and difficulty getting test drives. I think I've had enough of the kind of legacy automakers, the kind of non-100% committed to electric or non-fossil fuel cars and vehicles manufacturers here. I don't particularly have any desire to get either an EV new or used from any of those manufacturers right now. That might change, but I know I used to drive a Hyundai Ioniq Electric, and Hyundai's main revenue stream is not from electric cars, and probably won't be for a very long time, according to their current strategies. Same as a lot of the other kind of car makers. It's mainly Tesla, pretty much only Tesla, and some of the other emerging companies that are committed to just producing only zero tailpipe emission cars. Let's kind of try and break that down into some sort of summary trends then for 2019. So firstly, very low supply by most of the car makers of zero tailpipe emissions cars, other than Tesla. Tesla's the only one really kind of pushing the bar there. Also high price, that's the other thing I didn't mention, is that 2019 was the year where you could finally get a kind of non-Tesla longer range car with maybe 200, 250 miles, kind of 300 to 500 kilometers range. But you pay through the nose for it, you pay a fortune for it. Something that, in my opinion, didn't happen in 2019 was extra battery capacity didn't come at any kind of reduced cost. You sort of just pay more for your extra range. So yeah, we got sort of low supply and high price as standout trends of EVs in 2019, at least in my opinion. But are there any kind of good points? Well, I think there's one, but again, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So it's low depreciation. So one of the things I found when I sold my Ioniq Electric back in June this year, 2019, I got a good price for it, and the dealer put it on sale for practically the price that I paid for it back at the start of 2018. So in 18 months, at least in terms of dealer prices, virtually no depreciation. And it's a great car, and I'm not bothered by that. And I think this year people have actually woken up to the fact that electric cars are good cars. They're expensive to buy, but cheaper to run, cheaper to maintain. They last long, they're durable, they're nice to drive and so on. So there's low depreciation, at least, for electric cars in 2019. So yeah, what does low depreciation mean? Well, it means two things. Firstly, if you're going to buy a higher priced EV, which if you want longer range, you're going to have to, the way the market currently stands. Even if you hold on to it for a while, drive it, use it, you're probably going to recover a fair proportion of the purchase price back. It's still not an asset, but it's just less of a liability than electric cars were, initially a few years ago. And certainly than petrol diesel cars, which I think will become increasingly a huge liability and might not even be usable in some parts of the world in the coming years. So that's a good thing. That can give you confidence if you're kind of like having to spend more for an electric car, that, even though you need the sort of low interest finance or the cash up front to actually get the thing in the first place, you're probably not going to be gouged too much by owning it. And of course you're going to enjoy owning it, and it's going to be a great car most likely. But what else does low depreciation mean? Well, it means unless you already own an EV, where you can afford the kind of high cost of entry, you're probably not going to be able to afford a second-hand one, because second-hand prices have been very strong and seem to have got even stronger in 2019. So that is good if you already own an EV, not so good if you want to get into one, or if you want to encourage, much greater uptake of it. Again, of course, though, if you buy a second-hand EV, you're probably going to be fairly strong on it, maintaining quite a lot of the value when you come to sell it. So, low depreciation, a kind of double-edged sword there, is the kind of third trend, along with low supply and high prices of EVs in 2019. And will 2020 be any better? Well, what am I excited for in 2020? I'm still interested in whether we can actually afford a Model 3. The Model Y is interesting, but it's going to be even more expensive than the Model 3, because I think initially, at least, the configurations will be dual motor. So it'll be closer to kind of, £50,000 or something, and the equivalents in different regions of the world. But there's no other electric car coming out from any manufacturer, and I'm including here the kind of second-gen Ioniq Electric from Hyundai that I've failed to get a test drive of so far and so on. There's nothing that really excites or interests me on that front. So what have I been doing in 2019 to get around, given that I've been carless since June and without an EV? Well, as you've seen if you've been watching the channel for a while, I've taken up actually using an electrically assisted bicycle, a kind of cargo family e-bike. A big enough vehicle to take my son to kindergarten, for me to commute, and my daughter would go in it 24/7 if I'd let her. She loves being in it and being, me riding her around in it. She finds that incredible fun, and I've been cutting in some of the footage of us doing kind of night rides and going shopping and doing all kinds of things in it as I've been talking in this video. And apologies, I haven't quite worked out the kind of filming of it yet. I've still got the kind of bar of the custom Black Pax canopy on our recent Moolah Pax to 60. It's still across the footage. I'm working out positions of GoPros and things to get that a bit better. Yeah, so 4 things mainly excite me about electrified transport, let's just call it to be a bit broader, in 2020. First is the Tesla Model 3 and Tesla Model Y. I'd like to see one, even though I think it's not going to be affordable. The Tesla Model 3 is already very expensive. Model Y is going to be more. I'd like to get a go on the full suspension version of my cargo bike, the higher model, the recent Muller Load, just to see what that's like. It's not a car, but it's getting close to a full sort of car replacement for commuting and local trips, when you've got a comfortable, stable bike that you can put at least 2 kids in and maybe even 3 people, depending on weight limits. I'm also excited to try and get a go in one of these recumbent electrically assisted full suspension 4-wheel bicycles, the Velo Armadillo, but I'll probably have to go to Sweden to get a test on one of those. And I'm interested to see if anything comes from that kind of biohybrid that Robert Llewellyn on Fully Charged channel tested out quite some time ago, because that's meant to be going into kind of public road tests and things in 2020. So that would be, exciting to see. Are these kind of things useful? One of the weird things of moving to Denmark, I had the impression it would be further along with kind of, electrified, zero tailpipe emission transport of various kinds, public transport, private transport. I was kind of thinking it would be more on the kind of Norway side of things than, lower adoption rates than the UK. Unfortunately, it's kind of down from where the UK is, I think. And so most of the buses are quite dirty, most of the trains are quite dirty. In terms of they're using diesel or other things and pumping out fumes, so they're unpleasant to be on, they're noisy, they're vibrating, they're polluting, they're smelly. And one of the things about cycling a lot more is you really realise, even though I don't currently have an electric car, it would be great if all the other cars on the roads were zero tailpipe emissions cars. You really notice how dirty and disgusting it is being by petrol and diesel cars when you're riding past them, particularly with a child in a family bike. When you're right in the stream of it. So I try and ride away from the traffic as much as possible. There's a dedicated cycle lane here, which I've been cutting in some of the footage from. That means I can get about sort of, half, 2/3 of the way without being near cars, and whoa, you can tell the difference. And my son even asks to go on that route. He's only 4, but he asks to go on that route because I think he also likes it because there's less stop and start because there's no traffic lights. But I think he can sort of sense the smell and the rest of it from the cars and the noise. So yeah, I can see that there's, I still have a strong passion that there's a need for more modes of zero tailpipe emissions transport, and I would like there to be much better electric car options in 2020 at much more affordable prices, at much higher levels of supply, not offset by, very dirty, heavy, inefficient SUVs being bought more and more and more all around the world, including in the USA and in China. And I would like all the public transport to be a lot cleaner as well, because that still is an option here. The bus network is fairly good, but most of the buses are really dated and polluting. There's one electric bus here that I'm going to have a go on and make a video about at some point. But yeah, so, long ramble, but to wrap up then. High price of EVs in 2019 has been a bad thing. Low supply has been a bad thing. Low depreciation is a bit of a double-edged sword. And then, is there much to look forward to in 2020? For me, personally, I'm not sure. I think the Teslas are still too high priced, but I'm excited by them. I think they're great. And I'm interested to see if this I think there is a real necessity. Coming to Denmark has really kind of opened my eyes to that, to have some kind of mid-range transport option that's not a bicycle and it's not a car, some sort of electrically assisted and, midway option for commuting around cities with less congestion, with less pollution, with less noise, with less danger. That's really a big part, I think, of cities of the future and of kind of electric mobility of the future. So that's been good. That's been quite a sort of change for me in 2019. I never would have really kind of I found it a bit of a curiosity, I guess, from looking at videos online like Fully Charged, like Robert Llewellyn, trying that biohybrid. It was a curiosity, but not something I would have ever taken very seriously before moving here. So that's a good thing, and I think a good thing for me personally. I'm not so sure about for the Zero Tailpipe channel. Most of you might be expecting stuff about cars all the time. Sorry if that's what you've been expecting. It might be a while until I actually have an electric car again. But yeah, looking at the broader perspective on things in terms of what's happening more widely and wiping out the benefits of electric cars, and the kind of fact that cars are still cars, even if there's zero tailpipe emissions, they come with problems of congestion and other things. it's nice to kind of, this year I've broadened my kind of horizons on it all, and I guess that's a good thing. So I must also say I've thought about stopping the channel now that I don't have an electric car for the time being. I'm not sure how interesting it is to put sort of electric cycling content up. So yeah, let me know in the comments, quite honestly, is it time to stop the channel or wait until there's something else to really report? Should I continue on this kind of broader perspective on zero tailpipe emissions transport? What do you think? Let me know. And now that it's the end of the year, I'd like to thank you, for watching the channel, for following along with all these kind of things that have been happening, particularly this year, as things have moved away from a kind of more predictable, guy, mid-40s guy in an electric car driving around on YouTube, to something a bit more different and almost kind of real-time following my decision-making and different things and different changes of attitude that I've been having. Yeah, so thanks for, sticking around, watching the stuff. So I'd like to wish you a very happy new year, and please subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, and bye for now. Oh, and a quick PS. One of the things that I've really liked, I might sound a bit down on Denmark, and that's not the case actually. There's lots of good things here. It's just for electric cars, it's not so great, and that's a very specific area of things I know. One of the things I really love, and one of the reasons I wanted to do this kind of rambling walking video, is just the real sort of appreciation for and openness and access to nature. So that's particularly true on bicycles here, because there's bicycle lanes almost everywhere. I've never seen anything like it. It's superb. But also just things like this, paths through nature and so on, where you can just go for a wander, slow down the pace of things and just relax and, enjoy the world that we live in. So, yeah, great. So, thanks again, and bye now.